Hello, my name's Carl Durban. I'm studying fine art at Norwich University of the Arts, and I'm just going to my second year. I've also got about 25-30 years of experience in advertising and design, so some of my work can get quite organised and quite graphical, but then equally it can go completely the other way. So today's workshop I'm going to be delivering you is creating illustrations from everyday objects, and what I've done is I've just gathered a few items, been around the garden, been in the office and looked in the kitchen. I've just rummaged through a few drawers, see what I can find, see what's quite interesting, and then we'll have a play and see what we can do. But the first thing I'll do is I'll actually show you the items I've actually gathered, and we can then have a play with them from there. So here are the items that I've collated, just out of the office, out of the kitchen, and some out of the garden. So you've got bottles there, and some paintbrushes are quite nice. Cheese grater may enable use, it gives like some nice shadows when you put the light on it. Bark from the eucalyptus tree, but it just happens to be a eucalyptus tree, and some flowers and flower heads, and some eucalyptus leaves, which are quite nice shapes. There's a bottle opener and some oak leaves and everything, and then we've got I think it's an avocado slicer cutter thing, but probably never been used to take avocados out, but we're going to try and do something with that then in a little while. And then equally, what I believe is a pasta cutter shape thing. Again, probably never been used, but we'll have a go with that and see what we can do with it and see what shapes it makes. So then what I've got over here is a pad of paper and just a couple of pencils and a pen. Just going to keep it all mono, not going to introduce colour at this stage, just keep it nice and simple. And then I've got a little light here so I can actually put in a bit more direction if I need to, but you can use a torch, you can use your phone, you can use whatever. So we'll have a play and see what we can do. So what we need to do now is to start playing all their objects and actually see what works. What we're looking at here is we're looking at artists, two artists really, one called Vincent and one called Christoph Niemann. I mean, they're worth looking up on the internet and seeing what they actually do, because it's using everyday objects and then creating illustrations with them, as sometimes they are part of the actual illustration, sometimes the objects are just using the shadows. It all depends on how you actually want to do it, but it's all about experimenting, it's all about playing. So initially I want to play around with this whisk because I thought it was quite interesting. Something there I quite like it, it's quite complicated. I'm not sure it's something that works, so we'll leave that one. I was quite intrigued by the pasta cutter. What I'm going to do is bring in the little directional light. It starts to create a head shape or a face shape, so then you can start thinking, okay, what can I put in there? So I've got a variety of pens and pencils. I haven't really got into colour on this one. I'm just looking to play around with it in mono. So let's just do a archetypal face cartoon thing. Obviously research different sorts of styles. It's just a soft pencil on this one, just to see how that looks, and then the actual part of the shadow and everything becomes part of the actual illustration. So what you want to do is everything you actually do, you want to actually make sure you document. I'll just grab my phone. This is a phone or a camera, it doesn't really matter. Really, really important that you actually do this for every piece of work you do, not only just to actually record what you've done, just take a few images, but also to look back, reflect on what you've actually done, what works, what doesn't work, look to improve things, look to change things. So document everything, because that will become what's really vital when you start creating a portfolio, because also people want to see whether it's a digital portfolio or a actual portfolio. So what I'll do now is play with the this avocado cutter. I mean, it's very bird-like in its shape anyway. Creates a very interesting bird-like, very interesting in its shape there. So it creates a very sort of bird-like shadow as well. And it can look a little bit sinister. So if we have this light, would actually be a bit more directional. And get that up and start playing with that a little bit more. Yeah, see when you get that, you suddenly get that little V in the eye. Oh yeah, a hooded eye. I need to prop it in something so I can get the angle right. I say bird. It's quite. I move the object sometimes to move the light. But dinosaurish as well. It's a creature. The creature doesn't want to stay still. Yeah, I like that V in the eye. It's quite a long face. I'll just go with a fine line. Capture the V in the outline shape. Very large beak area. Nice hooded eye. Hooded brow. I mean, that gives you the basic shape. You can then take that away, which gives you that. So then you can start deciding whether how you want to develop that. You might decide to put in a shape of the actual bird. And then maybe add some feathers or whatever, some texture. Yeah, you can develop that and carry on and play around with that. So, again, document. It needs more playing on that one. I think it needs, you do more body to that one. But gives an idea. Okay, so right, what else have we got? Let's have a look at this eucalyptus leaves and see what that actually does. See, with the directional lights in here, it really does create some very interesting shapes. And what I like about it is when it actually overlaps as well. So put this light on. Yeah, maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to something so it stands proud of the page, and I'm just going to play with the shadows on this one. I'll just attach it to some tape. Oh, that's quite interesting. Ooh. Stay there. Be interesting still. That's quite nice. I mean, those shadows on there are actually really lovely. Those shadows are something that I'd almost want to just record just as shadows. And that's almost what you call a happy accident. There's all sorts of stuff happening there. And you might want to record them just for recording's sake, but equally you might want to sort of look back at them later on and do something else with them. So what happens if we move the light around? Kills it a bit. Down there. Turn it off. Oh, that's quite nice. Okay, let's take another picture of that. Let's see what that does. Yes, even when you actually extract the actual plant away, it's really quite interesting. Right, I think I'll use just a normal pencil on this just to get some shapes, because what I want to do is actually not just get the shapes of one set of these, create them as lots of little patterns so they're actually overlapping. Almost quite like a Keeley type fabric design. It'd be worth looking at her up if you don't already know the stuff, particularly if you want to start adding some very simple sort of almost retro colours to it as well. What's quite nice about that is you're getting shadows on shadows and shapes on shapes. Like I say, this may be more for reference, something you can develop, and it might be something you could take into Illustrator or another software creation program and create some patterns. The different tonal qualities is quite interesting. I'm just doing it as a line thing, but you might find that so you're getting those sort of things happening there. Being quite selective and also not taking up too much time, because the thing is just to experiment yourself, just to give you ideas of the sort of things you can do. Obviously these eucalyptus, they're a nice shape, but it could be any leaves, could be oak leaves or whatever, just whatever you can find. I just like the shape of eucalyptus, and I happen to have a very large one in the garden. Right, so it's very teardroppy sort of shapes. But yes, you could do all sorts of things with them. You could, when you actually document them as well, start to look at how you can make them look different. So you take it on stage by stage, you're taking it away from what you've actually done there. Take you out of the way, and then we'll look at what else we look at. Oh, that tea strain. Right, tea strain. This is quite like this one. Quite like it, but I don't know what to do with it. I quite like the fact that it opens. I quite like it gives a sort of bit of a shadow. Just to shadow the item, or is the actual item the thing? I'm wondering whether it's the item, whether the item becomes part of the actual drawing. So in this one I might just quickly do a Sharpie thing just to see what actually happens if that is like an officer's hat. He doesn't have much hair, will he, because he's in the army. He'd be very smart. That's the eyes, because he's got his hat over his eyes. But there you go. Just a very quick one. Get the angle right. Like that. Bit of fun. Okay. So I'll move you away. And I've got the other stuff here. Is eucalyptus bark, which is quite nice and big as well. This looks like a little shark, like a whale shark. You can actually break it to see what other shapes you'll actually get. Again, you've got lots of shadows. Get a lot of light on, see if that makes any difference. Becomes a bit. Can you turn any of these shapes into anything? Do they look like anything? Could be a part of the body of something. There's a piece here that I think is a bit more interesting. This one, just to me, it's like when you pick up a stone sometimes you actually sort of think, oh, look at the face on that. Well, I do anyway. That looks a bit more fun. That looks a bit more like a sort of dog face, you know, coming down there, and there's the nose. So we're going to draw a big floppy ear on here. I mean, it might be quite wolf-like more than a dog, but we'll make it a little bit friendly. Perhaps I'll have a tongue hanging out. Nothing more, a little bit of humour in the things. Have some fun. All serious. And then it's lacking an eye. I don't really want to draw an eye on there. I've got, I can put a eucalyptus eye on. See if that works or not. It's a bit strange, but it's a bit of fun. Document. Right, so another one to play with is something a little bit different. Turn the page around for that one. Move you out of the way. Some paintbrushes. I just picked some flower heads earlier, and I just thought they're quite nice to sort of make a sort of bunch of flowers. So this really, what's happening here is that the actual objects are becoming the illustration completely, rather than actually drawing them or the shadows. Just try it. Flowers, a couple of fuchsias. It's quite a big one. If I pull that off, it's probably going to fall apart. I'll do that like that. We can put that like that, and we can put this pink one over there. Another fuchsia that can just fall over from there. I'm going to put you over there and balance you off a bit more. Got another nice red one in there. And this one over here. Move it around a little bit, play around with it, see what actually happens, see what works and what doesn't work, and then sort of just, yeah, again, that's just another thing just on its own. Again, just make sure we document it, because sometimes just by cropping it in and just looking at it in isolation, it suddenly becomes something completely different when you take away all the stuff around the edge and just actually see, you can crop in and actually concentrate on just the item. There you go. So lots of different things, so lots of things to remember, lots of things. Just keep experimenting, keep trying, keep playing with things, just changing the light, seeing what actually happens, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then go back to things and then think, well, actually I really like that, but I need to develop it more, you know, whether that was like the eucalyptus leaves, you know, there's lots of scope in there, there's lots of cartoon styles to explore, there's lots of different things to do. So creative design, which is what we've been doing, it's all about reimagining the everyday. We took lots of different things, we played around with them, and we just saw what you could actually see them as something else, how it worked. What you need to do now is you look at what you created. You know, what did you use? Why did you actually choose the items? Did they work? Did they not work? How could you develop them on? How could you have actually used them in a slightly different way? Did the medium that you used, did that actually work? Should you have then sort of thought, actually I could do that in pen better, or that might work better in a softer pencil? Or how about introducing colour? What if you, like I said, if you actually then took it into a digital format and you actually then took some of those images and actually created it in, like I said, Adobe Illustrator or something else like that, you know, however you, whatever sort of software you might want to actually use. So just review what you've actually done, take a step back, take time and actually look at what you've actually done. How else could you take them on? Just keep experimenting. It's the most important thing you can do, is to just keep experimenting, just keep trying stuff, just keep playing. Just look at things differently and have fun. So playing and experimenting and having fun, so important in actually the way you actually creatively develop any image. You will learn so much more. You'll learn so much more by actually doing that. So just keep doing those things. So thank you very much for watching the workshop. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for your time.